able to have it. We had some parents who were not able to attend, and they did ask us to film it, and so that's why we're live on Facebook, but I'm going to kind of talk to my audience and kind of go through the presentation. And so my name is Irene Kistler, and I'm a high school librarian here in San Antonio, Texas, and this presentation was put together along with another school librarian, Mariah Ortiz, and she is an elementary librarian. And so we just kind of want to make sure that communities know what to look for when they think about their student and when they evaluate effective school library programs, and making sure that the needs of kids in their community and their own specific student are being met. Okay, and so I just kind of want to ask, what does a child need to be successful in the 21st century? And so I just kind of want to hear from one or two parents, like, what are you looking for your child?
Well, they have to have technology, and they need to learn from reading.
Very good. And so, like, they need technology, they need to know how to use technology, be content creators, be smart about it. It's important that they're able to read across every format, digital, audio, written, like print, physical books. What do you want? Like, what are you looking for as a 21st century learner, since we have a student here? Like, what are you interested in? What matters to you? I put her on the spot. She's nervous. I can tell you like to read, right? You brought your book?
And they need to be able to put all that information, the formats of information, into a usable product, whatever they're working on.
Exactly.
In the end.
Yeah, they need to be able to synthesize and come up with some sort of evaluation and construction of knowledge that just comes from their understanding, and creating an expression of that synthesis. I think that that's huge as well. Okay, and so how does your child use the school library? Like, how are you aware? Like, what does your child do when they go to the school library? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
They look up on the computer where the books are.
They look up on the computer and find books, okay? What else happens in the school library?
I honestly don't know what my kids do when they go to the library.
That is a very honest and very true answer. Very honest and very true. And that's actually one reason why I put this, and Mariah, why we put this together. Because parents really don't know, and community members really don't know what goes on in a school library. And you can't evaluate a program and kind of make decisions about, what do I want this to look like for my child, if you're really not certain of what is even going on there. Back when I grew up in the 1970s, school libraries, we did, selected books, and then we used encyclopedias. That's really was the limit of what the school library did. And actual focus on information technology didn't exist because the technology wasn't there. And so it's really changed over time, and school library programs have had to evolve in response to that in a great way. And so I want to go through just some information about what is a school librarian, what do they do, what is their actual job, like what should your child be seeing when they walk into the school library. The first thing is literacy program. No one goes into the field of school librarianship if they don't love books. And so books really is the first thing that comes to the mind of the parent. Parents expect their child to be able to check out books, have access to books, read books, return books, and to keep that cycle continuing all throughout the year. And for a lot of parents, that's kind of where it begins and ends. And that's easy to connect that because that really was kind of like our childhoods. It's really a new paradigm that the school library is so much more than, story a week and checking out books and doing research out of encyclopedias. But that's still an important part, and that's why that's first, because that still does need to be there. But it's also an information landscape. School librarians are teachers. They are certified classroom teachers. You cannot be a school librarian in the state of Texas unless you have been a classroom teacher first. Being a classroom teacher was again reaffirmed last year by the state that yes, we want classroom teachers to be school librarians. And so the funnel to get into the field of school librarianship goes through the classroom. And so you have a certified teacher in every single school library that is funded correctly and is following, kind of the recommended recommendations. Research and reference, that's a really important piece, and we're going to get to that a little bit later when we look at some research that research piece is really tied as a through line from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. That research piece becomes an incredibly important strand to launch them into successful work after school, but then also college success. There's a direct correlation between the exposure of a student to a certified school librarian and their success in college. And it's because only the school librarian has a master's degree in the field and a certification in the field to teach research. And so it's a very specialized skill set. It's not something that everybody has the training to do. And we get specialized training through our degree programs to teach kids how to do research. It's a critical piece of the job. And your child's success in college and after high school is very dependent on that strand. There's research to show that exposure to a certified school librarian improves their success after high school. And that's a big deal, because if we're not here to talk about making them successful adults, then like, what are we doing? What is anyone doing in the school system if it's not about that, right? Because that's really our goal for every child. Okay, this one is huge. Access, equity, and advocacy. We are the front lines on freedom of information for every child. We provide access to materials that perhaps their family can't provide access to. Perhaps there's not enough money to build a home library. Perhaps there's not the skill set to understand, what their child needs to be reading. We provide all of that, especially for low-income students. It becomes a huge issue for kids whose parents don't live in an area or don't have the resources to get in a car and take them to what they need. We provide that. We level the playing field for every child. So that's a huge piece. The advocacy piece, we ensure that children are allowed to read what they want to read without censorship. And so parents give their child's freedom to read what it is they want to read and to provide that resource to them. So that's a huge advocacy piece as well. Okay, collaboration. We are actually under the new Every Child Succeeds Act. We're actually mandated by federal law to collaborate with teachers. We're considered essential school personnel to support classroom teachers, and we are extended the invitation to collaborate with teachers and work on lessons. Part of what we do is provide professional development to teaching staff. We're the instructional and technology leaders on a campus. We're the only campus teacher required to have a master's degree to even apply for the job. To be a certified school librarian, we're the only teacher on campus that is required to have a master's degree. Now, of course, a lot of teachers have them, and it's a wonderful thing. There's only one job that requires it, and there's a reason for that. It's a very specialized skill set. And so we're able to help teachers improve not only their instruction in the classroom, but see model teaching in our classroom that can then blend over to their classroom when we're not co-teaching anymore. And so we do a lot of co-teaching in our positions. I just spent my entire day co-teaching with it. It was wonderful, I loved it. Okay, technology tools. We tweet, we Instagram, we Snapchat, we do everything related to digital literacy. We get to know every single student on campus. The entire student body is our class list. We're the only teacher that serves every single student every single year. When my high schoolers leave after 12th grade, I'm the only teacher they've had 4 years in a row. The only one. And so with that kind of tracking, we're able to teach them things about technology and to establish a continuum that no other teacher can do. So in middle school, they have that one teacher for 3 years, their certified school librarian. And that certified school librarian is able to then connect with them about how to be appropriate digital users. And everybody, every parent is concerned about the inappropriate use of technology. That's part of the school librarian's responsibility, is to teach kids, hey, there's a person behind that screen. That's not just a tweet you're sending out. Like, if you wouldn't say it to them in person, then don't say it to them on a tweet. So we're able to have all those conversations and kind of have a continuum of conversations. Like in our heads and on paper, we have a scope and sequence that here's what I want my 6th graders to know. Then I'm going to build on that for my 7th graders. Then I'm going to build on that for my 8th graders. When I'm getting students from middle school, that middle school librarian gets the 8th graders up to a certain point, and then I take them in as ninth graders, and I'm expecting a certain scope and sequence to have been followed so that when we get into some trouble as far as being an effective school library program. Okay, professional development and professionalism, and I've already kind of touched on this. Principals who use their school librarians to provide professional development, their campuses achieve higher scores on any sort of testing that they have. Because school librarians are master teachers and we're master presenters. Like, we're trained to present to teaching staff, to students, to parents. We serve everyone, like every single person. We serve parents, we serve teachers, we serve students. Effective school library programs have principals who allow us to extend that invitation to the staff through training, and that's really important. Okay. This is such a fun thing to be a part of right now because there's such a transformation going on with the way a library looks. And so facilities and physical space are actually a critical piece of the job. And like having things for the kids to come in and de-stress with, that actually becomes important. Being an open and welcoming environment for every child, regardless of what they bring to the table, that becomes very important as a space. Like, we are a safe space for every single child to come to, no matter what they're bringing with them that day, like whatever bag they're kind of carrying emotionally, we're a safe space for them. And to be a safe space, we get to have fun things like, you know, large giant coloring sheets that they can all color, and Jenga games, and when they're on their downtime during lunch or before school, after school, like they can come and they can, you know, play Jenga, and they can, you know, there's a librarian in town who has a giant Connect 4 Velcro wall, and her kids can play Connect 4 on a Velcro wall. We're always sharing with each other ways to bring kids in. I have a tinker table at my school, and it's just this old computer and some tools, and I just put this on tinker table, and the kids said, well, what do we do with that? And I'm like, I have no idea. Why don't you tinker with it and see what happens? They're like, well, we can take it apart. Yeah, it's broken. They don't need it anymore. And they started taking it apart, examining the pieces. It leads to research, because then they see what's inside the computer, then they want to know more, and then they're on the computer, and they're researching, and they want to know, well, if this part isn't, you know, working in this computer right now, well, maybe I can take this part that is working and put it somewhere else. And now they're reusing and modifying. It's like, wow, that's amazing. And they're kind of developing their own personalized learning plan for themselves based on their interest. And so that becomes important. Like, you know, one of the most successful activities I ever did was just putting paper out with chalk and letting kids do chalk drawing on butcher paper. And they just thought that that was amazing, that was just they got to high schoolers, had chalk on their hands. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Like, we never could use chalk. And they just went to town with it. And so we kind of become a place where they can de-stress in between their learning time. And so we're a place of rigor, but we're also a place of relaxation, of thinking, of resetting, so that they're ready for the other classes in their day. And so the space becomes really important. And plus, it's super fun. Like, the furniture's fun. Now we have like little bouncy chairs, we have standing tables, we have all kinds of really cool furniture available to us. Okay, and so I just want to ask, like, is your child getting these services from their school library program? Like, is that what you're hearing about when they come home and they talk about their day? Because if they're getting this, they're probably talking about it somewhere. Like, parents are the ones who tell me what is successful in my program because their kids talk to them about it. Like, I have snakes in the library. I have so many parents. You know, some who are like, oh, now they want a snake. Why, Miss Kistler? Why did you bring a snake into the library? But if they love it, they talk about it. And so kind of evaluating and thinking, is this what my library looks like for my child? Like, that's your goal. Like, that's what a library is supposed to look like. And so why does it matter? What does the research say? So I asked you to pick up some handouts. And I just want to draw your attention first to the Study Ties College Success to Students' Exposure to a High School Librarian. And I know this focuses on the high school librarian, but I want you to remember that it's like a relay race. We just had the Olympics, and we had the 400-meter relay that we saw, you know, the female Olympians run, and they had the, you know, the debacle where I think they fell, right? And then they got to rerun it, and they wound up winning the gold. But it was really essential that every person did their part. Like, every leg of the relay race had to be, you know, that athlete running as hard as they could, as fast as they could, with the technique to pass the baton in place so it was seamless. Like, they don't even look behind them when they pass the baton. That's crazy to me. Like, I can't, like, walk forward and not, myself without, like, falling sometimes, much less running at full speed and grabbing the baton. Like, the skill level that takes is amazing to me. So imagine in your child's academic career, the school librarian getting up to grab the baton behind them, and there's no baton. Because no one's been there. Because it's not an effective library program. The baton is dropped. And so, like, your child isn't going to get to the finish race in the same, at the same level of achievement as a child who's had the baton. That's really critical to understand. This paper talks about that. And then also, if you look at appropriate staffing for school libraries. This is a position statement by the American Association of School Librarianship, and I want to draw your attention to paragraph 3. In addition to library degree professionals, highly trained technical and clerical support staff are necessary for all library programs at every grade level. Each school should employ at least one full-time technical assistant or clerk for each school librarian. Some programs, facilities, and levels of service will require more than one support staff member for each professional. This is not optional for an effective school library program. And there are some reasons for why they're not optional. And I want to kind of go ahead and look. Think, is your child's school staff to support the student's access to the school librarian as an instructor? Because that's what it's all about. It's about your kid and them having access to their instructor. And so is your school operating in a way that they have that? And so this is a really important concept. And right here, I think, is often where communities fall apart in their understanding. The first part, effective school library programs require leadership and management. The school librarian is the leader. We are collaborating with teachers, we're supporting students, we're creating safe spaces, we're developing the collection, we're teaching research, we're doing all of those things. When you're doing those things, you can't be the operational manager at the same time. There's only one of you. You can't do both jobs. And so if your school does not have a library clerk that is trained to support your school librarian, then let's take a look at that job. Oh, this comparison, I love this. Somebody said this and it really resonated with me, and so I've kind of kept it. Would you ask a math teacher to teach their lessons and run the school store at the same time? And what would happen to the understanding of the math students, to the conceptual development of a math student if their teacher were required to do both at the same time? Same thing with sports. Would you ask the coach to run the game and sell concessions at the same time? And what would happen to the play on the field if that happened? All of a sudden there's a long line at the concession stand. People are looking over, they're getting kind of, they're hungry, like, why does somebody come over here and serve me? Gotta stop the game, hang on, I'm gonna run over there. Like, inconceivable, right? Like, you would never ever set that expectation. Same thing with the math lesson. You can't be in the middle of polynomials and then say, I'm sorry, hang on, if everybody could just pause, I'm gonna go answer the phone, and I'm gonna go, I have 3 parents waiting, I wanna go see what they need, because they're expecting service when they walk in, because you're a functioning library. That's what they expect as a community member. And so what does a library clerk do? Every one of these things that the library clerk does means your school librarian is not doing it, which means your school librarian is serving your child. It all goes back to the child. It all goes back to the student. And so the clerk provides clerical and technical support. They're the ones, they deal with material. Like my library clerk, she's the one who puts all of the processing information into the computer. I don't do any of that. She does all of the data input. They're the ones who print the reports for overdue books, for lost books, and they get those out to the students. Like, that's a fiduciary responsibility of the school library program. We can't just take taxpayer money and lose total control of the inventory. We have to make sure that the library system works, just like the public library. Like, they have people sitting at the desk that when you turn your books in, they scan them in, they make sure that they're in good condition and they're returned. If the clerk isn't doing that, then the school librarian has to do it. Inventory, maintaining, like I'll just share today. We had a product dropped off and from a library vendor that actually turned out to be not at all what we needed. Well, I was teaching, So who called the company? And who called to ask about, you know, how are we gonna fix this? We need a replacement product, this isn't what we expected. It was my library clerk. She made the phone call. She's the one who dealt with that. Because I was teaching copyright and fair use to students today. And it would not have made sense for me to stop my lesson and go deal with something that was operational management, because that's her responsibility, and I trust her with that. When teachers are doing a unit and they want a list of resources, I can curate the list, but it's not the best use of my time to actually go pull those books. And so the library clerk does that. She takes the list, she pulls them, she makes sure they're checked out, and then given to the teacher. She makes that connection. She serves as a bridge between, hey, here's what I need, oh, let me get that to you. Because the professional part that I'm doing is evaluating the resources and making sure you have what you need. And then my library clerk is coming behind that, taking the list, pulling the books, and getting them delivered. So what am I not doing if I now have to do that job as well? Organizing and shelving, answering the phone, all of those things. And this list is by no means all-inclusive. There is so much more to the position. And so what do the professionals say about somebody serving that position? Take a look at this document. This has 3 of the most powerful conclusions about library clerks that I think is available today. And the first one, students who are Hispanic and whose full-time librarians have support staff 3 times as likely to earn advanced writing scores as their counterparts whose full-time librarians do not have support staff. So if you have a school with a certified school librarian and they're not staffed, your kids are not achieving at the level of a certified school librarian with support staff. There is so much writing done in the research process. I write with kids all the time. So of course, if I'm able to work with them more, their writing is going to be better across every content area, because that's what we do when we synthesize and when we take resources and we create our own language. We're writing all the time across every subject. The second one, 9% more students score advanced in reading when there is a full-time certified librarian with support staff, than a full-time certified librarian alone. So there are studies that do the comparison. Certified school librarian alone, certified school librarian with support staff. There's not a single study that does not support the model of bringing in that support staff. 9% more scored advanced in reading, 8% more scored advanced in reading, see where students have a full-time certified librarian than where they do not. And so here it's addressing, some schools don't have certified school librarians at all. They have just library clerks. They lose everything in the gains. Like they make no gains because they don't have a master teacher in the spot. The one on the bottom, the percentage of students scoring advanced in writing 2.5 times higher for schools with a full-time certified librarian than those without one. Similarly, the average percentage of students scoring advanced in writing twice as high for schools with a full-time certified librarian with support staff as for those with only a full-time certified librarian. And so a full-time certified librarian can absolutely make a difference, but you still have a defunded library program. Make no mistake. You have a defunded library program when there is not support staff. Okay, and so think of your child, think of what you want for them. Think of how their library is staffed. Think of everything the school librarian does. And then what does the school librarian have to cut out to do the library clerk position, and what is your child losing out on as a result? Because it's all about your student. That's the only reason we're coming to work, is because we love your kids. And so we want to do the job. I don't know a single certified school librarian who is operating in a school with no support staff who does not want the support staff so they can devote more time to the instructional role. Because we know what we're supposed to be doing. We have to have the support staff to do it. And so think, like, who's doing that job? Because somebody has to do it. It doesn't just go away. Somebody has to do it. Okay, so what can you do? The first thing is know how your school library is staffed. Now that you know what the school library looks like, know the staffing. Is there a certified school librarian in the library space? And are they supported with a full-time trained clerk? Both of those things have to be in place to have an effective school library. It's so important for parents and community members to be involved in the conversation. Like, we're all taxpayers. We're all stakeholders. We've all got skin in the game. We love these kids. We see a vision for what these kids can accomplish. We've got to work together and all pull in the same direction to make sure that happens. Speak to your campus principal and to your school board. Like, we elect the school board so that they can represent students and taxpayers, so that they make sure our money is being spent well, that decisions reflect what is best practice and in the best interest of kids. And they can't do that without input from the community. They have to know what you want. So be clear in your purpose. Make sure they know that you value this, that the research supports it, that this is important to you. I want to talk about equity. I think that's my last slide. Yeah. I want to talk about equity just one final moment, because there's a lot of confusion between equality and equity. And this is from Shanna Peoples, and she's a dear friend of mine. She was the National Teacher of the Year for the 15-16 school year. And when she explained it, it totally resonated with me. Equality is everybody gets a pair of shoes. Everybody. Equity is everybody gets a pair of shoes that fit. And so, do the shoes fit for your child? Do the shoes fit for your community? In order for your child to have an equitable, level playing field and be able to compete, not against, but with, and collaborate with, the other people who are going to be 21st century adults with them, they need to have the same advantage. They need to have the same resources. And so it's not just about equality, it's about making sure they have what they need, that their shoes fit. Making sure they have a funded library program, that's the first step. It's the foundation. Nothing else really should happen in education until that one thing is mandated on a school campus. Because everything funnels out from the school library. If you want to know the health of a campus, go into the library. It's going to immediately tell you the health of that campus. It's the starting point. It's the heartbeat of the school. You got to take care of the heartbeat. You got to take care of the heart. So I'm so thrilled. This was my first presentation. I hope it was valuable. I hope you guys got some good information. And thank you to the parents who I know are kind of watching this and wanted it on video. And if you have any questions, email me, greg_kistler@att.net. And I am just glad that you joined us on Facebook Live. So thank you.
Can I hit finish?